What is going on, people? It is another episode of Unfiltered. You know that sounds the Unfiltered band. And yes, that means it's another episode of the pod, episode 248. You can jump on board 247, 365, and get on board the Unfiltered Revolution. It is easy. Artist formerly known as Twitter, X if you will, at Casey Stern. Hop up into the bio, get over to the YouTube channel, get all the content, hit the thumbs up, tell your friends, and share all the videos, interviews, conversations, rants, and more. 247 into now 248 episodes deep. And of course, where most of you are listening but not watching, that's at Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your better podcasts. And thank you to the Unfiltered Band. And thank you for being with me here on this show. Everybody getting ready for the Super Bowl. Everybody pumped up, got all your plans, got your chicken wings and buffalo dips and parties and Super Bowl boxes and everything kind of all set up for this coming Sunday on the 11th of February. And always there's too much time in the 2 weeks, no offense to the Pro Bowl or the Pro Bowl games and Eli and Peyton and all that they do. It didn't matter when it was the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. The 2 weeks is too long, too many conversations, and there's too much time to fill. And every year, there's some debate or something that just seems to take precedent and be prioritized at the front of the line. And thankfully, it's not the hatred. I've already done a pod on this about the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce attention that has gotten, because even something bigger has become the conversation of this. Reminiscent of when Eli was in there, we're discussing if he's elite, that great elite conversation now we have with everybody. Well, everybody want to anoint the GOAT to anyone and everything, and often too soon. And I have no problem admitting, and I said this in a pod recently, that Patrick Mahomes already, to me, is in that top 5 category. But I cannot believe the amount of conversation. I understand it because it's for shows and for producers and editors and clickbait and everything that you can imagine is to get attention. But all the conversation about Patrick Mahomes and is he already surpassing Tom Brady? If he wins on Sunday, does he surpass Tom Brady? To the GOAT talk and to the Mahomes over Brady talk. Premature. Want to get into that. And I want your comments throughout the way. Get on board and jump on X and let me know, or on Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And also on the YouTube comments as well. Let me know your thoughts on this. We always able to give our thoughts in large part thanks to our good friends at Bet Online. They're your number one source for your sports betting needs. You get latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, basketball, football, boxing, golf, anything you want. They got it. They continue to be the fastest and easiest way. Get all your wagers, live betting, and favorite casino and card games, all available to play, all right from your phone. So head over to the website, use your mobile device, sign up today, get in on all the action, and remember to use this promo code. It is BELIEVE, BLEAV. Get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It is Bet Online, and they are where the game starts as we get started here. And I want to go back before I get in the present and then move forward, if that makes any sense. Said this in a recent podcast, but I have talked about this often. I am a Giant fan. I have been a Giant fan since I was a kid. Joe Morris and Lawrence Taylor, my 2 favorite players when I was young. Joe Morris because he was small, Lawrence Taylor because he was awesome. Greatest defensive player of all time. But regardless of how much I love Phil Simms, or whether it was Hostetler or anybody else you want to put in the category of being a quarterback of the Giants all the way up and through Eli Manning, or anybody who was forced to try and love in between, hello, Dave Brown and Kent Graham. My favorite quarterback as a kid and my favorite non-Giant player as a kid to watch was Joe Montana. And I hated the 49ers. The day that he went to the Chiefs, I got a Chiefs Montana jersey, one of the only ones to have immediately and jump all over and wear 19 because he was finally not a Niner anymore. But I thought my entire childhood and all through my 20s and my 30s that Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback of all time. Did it mean that he had the greatest talent of all time? It did not, because you could say Jeff George even could have thrown the ball harder than Joe Montana. But when I look at a quarterback, and it's not just arm talent, it is not just the ability in the mind, the X's and O's and reading defenses. It is not just the in-game ability. It is not just the slow pacing of the heartbeat, seemingly having no pulse in those big spots. It is all of those things and being a winner and a leader, because that is the job of a QB. To me, Joe Montana was always the greatest of all time. And I sat and I watched the beginning of Tom Brady's career. Tom Brady, who I watched play live when he was at Michigan, and always kind of was a fan of, because it seemed like that dude really knew how to run a room, so to speak. I mean, guys wanted to play for him, understood, how to maximize his talents. This guy never had the ability of Aaron Rodgers, who probably is the greatest quarterback specimen that I've ever seen. And that, my friends, would include Patrick Mahomes. And I don't mean Aaron Rodgers now, or even 4 snaps into this season with the Jets, or whatever he is next year. And I know he talks too much, but in the ability to move and to throw laterally and all the things that he does, in addition to just the unconscionable way that he could get down the field. Go look at that play to Cook on the sideline, among many others, where it's just like you're wowed. Almost Barry Sanders wowed in terms of what he used to do running the ball, watching Aaron Rodgers play the position of quarterback. But Joe Montana was always, to me, the best of all time. But I watched Tom Brady, and it continued. And despite the fact that Eli, my dude, got him not once but twice, I was here and had just moved to Atlanta and watched 28-3 develop. Watch Tom Brady without receivers. And everybody can talk about Wes Welker, and everybody can talk about Deion Branch, but who were these guys before him? And I'm not talking about Gronk, because if you want to do a Mahomes comp, he and Kelsey would cancel out. But there were a lot of times where he didn't have a running game. There were a lot of times where he didn't have really great receivers. I watched David Patton get released by the Giants and then become a star for Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. Tom Brady, like a point guard in the NBA, made players around him better. And I watched people not like Tom Brady. Deflategate. They didn't like him because they were jealous. They were jealous of him with Giselle. They were jealous of his looks. They were jealous of his star quality. Whatever. They didn't like Bill Belichick. They didn't like the Patriots. And the list goes on and on. But end of the day, Tom Brady, a dude. And then when he started to have those comebacks and win those Super Bowls, 7 of them, count them. And it wasn't just in the beginning of his career when he went 3 in the first 4 years, but all the way at the end, over 40, when everybody thought over the hill got nothing left, when he doing it with the Bucks against Patrick Mahomes. Oh, by the way. And I had already thought this was that. To me, 28-3, and that was it for me. And I was already there. But watching Tom Brady do what he do, and watching him in those moments, to me, he had the mentality and that in-game winner about him, that slowing of the pulse, making decisions about him. And despite what you thought of not having the arm talent, and maybe not the arm talent of some other quarterbacks, able to make the bin throws when they were needed. Were they always perfect? No. The one to Welker, for example, among others? No. Late in his career, you want to talk about the last year he played? No. But Tom Brady made all the throws. Tom Brady made all the right plays. And Tom Brady was the greatest leader I've ever seen as a football fan. And that still continues, even though I love Patrick Mahomes. All of those things can be the way that they are and the way I said. In my opinion, whether you agree, I want to know, let me know in the comments. And I could still tell you that Pat Mahomes has more talent than Tom Brady. See, when you ask, are you a better quarterback than Tom Brady? It's like saying in baseball, which I covered for over 20 years, and I've gotten a chance to watch and speak to many of the great pitchers of our time and even before mine. Are we talking about somebody who's a great thrower and has great arm speed? Talking about somebody who's got great movement on pitches? Or are we talking about somebody who knows how to pitch, which means they've got all of that, but they have both? Because if you're talking about just the talent, and you want to talk about plus stuff from a pitching standpoint, right? There are guys who had a lot more stuff than Greg Maddux certainly did on his fastball, did he not? And there were a lot of them that couldn't do, even if they had what Pedro had in that changeup, what Pedro was able to do. Because those guys pitched their asses off, in addition to having the ability at the high level to throw the baseball. Patrick Mahomes has all those things just like Brady. Patrick Mahomes may end up being the greatest quarterback of all time. I already got him in the top 5. But if you're going to tell me that Patrick Mahomes is a more talented quarterback than Tom Brady, you're right. Tom Brady might tell you that if he were honest. But there's a reason why Patrick Mahomes, I wrote this quote down, said just yesterday in the some of the media stuff leading up to the Super Bowl. He said, I'm a long way away still, Mahomes admits when being asked about Tom Brady. Mahomes making his fourth appearance in the Super Bowl, 6 seasons as a starter, 6 AFC championship games, 2 titles, looking for a third, 2 MVPs, which Brady did not have early in the first 6, 7 seasons of his career. His greatest seasons statistically were not at the beginning of his career. Didn't make it any less remarkable what he was doing when that team set up Vinatieri in that field goal against the Rams at the time with the greatest show on turf did it. Brady, 7 Super Bowl wins, 3 in the first 7 seasons and 3 in his first 4 years. Do you want to talk about where he is in the first 6, 7 seasons? You want to say trajectory? I'm all for that. But some of the things that I hear are just ridiculous. Well, Mahomes is better. I hear this often. I've heard this from people covering the sport and watch podcasts and people on TV talk about this here over the last couple of days. The Tom Brady had Bill Belichick. I'm sorry. Do we not realize Andy Reid is a great coach? We were just talking about how Belichick didn't get a job when there were openings. Oh, because he's washed up? He's not a quarterback trying to play. Belichick forgot how to coach. Now, I happen to think that Bill Belichick is the greatest NFL coach that I've seen, and ironically tied to Montana. Bill Walsh would have been a guy that I had on that list during my childhood and when I grew up that I saw. But much like Nick Saban, everybody's going to find different ways if they don't like the teams that Belichick coached to tell me he can't coach. The guy's one of the greats, regardless of what you think about the Deflategate or anything else. Or you don't like that he wanted to admit injuries, or you don't like what he wore, or you don't like his attitude. The guy is a dude. I have no problem saying that. And absolutely, Tom Brady, be the first to tell you, the hell of a big reason the Patriots are sitting there in as many Super Bowls as they're in is the fact that Bill Belichick is the coach, but not the fact they came back down 28-3, in addition to the fact that the Falcons decided not to run the freaking football. Tom Brady, the biggest reason for that. Andy Reid is a hell of a football coach. To sit there and say that the reason why you're thinking why Mahomes is better than Tom Brady is Brady was just a product of Belichick. Brady is of the what? The Belichick system? The guy's a defensive guru. What system? This is what we do. Well, Brock Purdy not that good because he's in the Shanahan system. So that's what it's about. Now, you understand, like he's not that good. Now, look, I don't think Brock Purdy is, I'll be honest, I don't think he's great. I think it's mock art. Therefore, the leadership that example plays are his greatest asset. I don't think he's got immense arm talent either, by the way. Wishes he had the arm talent of Brady. But Brock Purdy been pretty damn good and was great in the second half of the last football game we just watched him play and found ways to win. But he's a product of the system. Brady's a product. We go and push arguments we want to push, and we come up with reasons that will defend them, and we all do that in our regular life, no matter what it is, and none of us damn realize it ever when we do it. But the people who are sitting there and telling me and telling you on television and radio that cover this sport for a living, and former players and quarterbacks of this sport who are telling you that Patrick Mahomes better than Tom Brady already, or he is if he wins Sunday, who cares if it's 7 Super Bowls, because he didn't have Bill Belichick, are just idiots because Andy Reid pretty damn good. And Pat Mahomes, by the way, that's slighting him and slighting Brady because the two of them both have something to do with the coach because you have to have opportunities. Lee Smith never got to get saves in a postseason. You got to get opportunities to pitch. Nobody knew if the late Roy Halladay was going to pitch well. I'll never forget it. I don't know why he's going to be in the postseason. You don't know if he's going to be in the postseason. What do you think? He going to fail? Did he never pitch there? The guy threw a no-hitter in the first game he ever pitched in a postseason, where Brandon Phillips, my guy, Dat Dude BP, trying to bunt just to get on because they couldn't hit Doc that day. 27 Yankees weren't hitting Doc that day. Pat Mahomes more arm talent than Tom Brady. Pat Mahomes on a trajectory, if he wins Sunday, that is higher than Tom Brady and statistically higher than Tom Brady through 6 into 7 seasons. But Pat Mahomes, the GOAT already? No. Unless you're telling me that you think GOAT is talent. And then, oh, by the way, I'll tell you that you should be making the case that Aaron Rodgers, then, in this time period, was the GOAT because he's the most talented quarterback of this time period. Even though he didn't run like Mahomes, the ability to use his feet and throw the way he did was freakish, like we've never seen before. That guy's The Weird Science, for those of you too young, movie where they create a woman. He basically, the create a player at quarterback is number 12. So you can't be sitting there just to create arguments because you got nothing better to do, coming up with this pomp and circumstance and propaganda, if you will, to sit there and tell me that Tom Brady, a better quarterback than Tom Brady, excuse me, Pat Mahomes, better quarterback than Tom Brady, if you are looking essentially when you consider GOAT status as having a better, because Tom Brady got 7 freaking Super Bowls, and you can't do that by accident. You can't just fall and slip into a puddle and, oh, that happens to you. 7. So I think Pat Mahomes is going to win in his 3rd Super Bowl. I think they're going to win on Sunday. I think they're going to win on Sunday. I think they're the better team than the 49ers. I think he's the better quarterback. In the late games, you got the better team and you got the better guy with the ball. I feel pretty good about Kansas City coming up in this Super Bowl. So you could say he's among the GOATs. You could say he's in the trajectory. You could say he's got more talent. But if you're saying that if he wins Sunday, he's already had a better career than Tom Brady, or he's the greatest of all time, or whatever, however you want to slice it from a career standpoint, you are a moron. Because it's just not statistically there. And to use Mona Lisa on My Cousin Vinny, it doesn't hold water. Unfiltered is always presented by our good friends at BetOnline.